This week on ANN, the Unity Oversight Committee releases conclusions of a recent global survey.
The president of the Adventist Church in Inter-America announces his retirement.
And church members in Chiapas, Mexico are given support after being persecuted for their faith.
These stories and more coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us this week.
Results from a worldwide survey were presented to the members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church's Unity Oversight Committee during a scheduled meeting held at the world headquarters in the U.S. state of Maryland.
The 6-question survey was designed and administered by the Church's Office of Archives, Statistics, and Research, or ASTR. The survey addressed issues relating to compliance with voted actions of the General Conference session, the Church's highest decision-making body, and its Executive Committee, which meets annually between the quinquennial sessions of the General Conference.
The report, presented to the committee by the director of ASTR, David Trim, featured survey data gathered from the presidents of the Church's 13 world divisions, as well as the Middle East North Africa Union, an attached field of the GC. In addition, the survey was sent to the 137 presidents of unions around the world.
In this report, Trim stated that union and division presidents were requested to answer the 6 survey questions according to what they believe is the view of the majority of members in their territory, as opposed to their personal opinion.
The following conclusions were drawn from the collected data. There is strong support for some kind of consequence for noncompliance. There is also strong support for not allowing presidents of non-compliant unions to serve on standing or ad hoc committees of the GC Executive Committee.
There is support for not allowing presidents of unions who are not in compliance with voted actions of the GC session and of the GC Executive Committee to vote in meetings of the GC Executive Committee.
A majority of church leaders oppose removing voice from non-compliant union presidents, and most church leaders oppose requiring union presidents to sign a document promising to abide by GC session and executive committee actions.
Finally, there is overwhelming support for a GC team to meet with presidents of unions not in compliance, to listen sensitively, counsel, and pray.
A preliminary report on qualitative data gathering was given by Hensley Morovin, Secretary of the Unity Oversight Committee. Morovin reported that qualitative data is continuing to be gathered through personal visits and dialogues with GC institutions and leaders, as well as division and union leaders worldwide.
So far, 11 such dialogues have taken place, with many more scheduled for the near future.
For more information on the survey questions and detailed information on each answer, visit news.adventist.org.
President of the Adventist Church in Inter-America, Israel Leito, announced his retirement from church service this week. The announcement was made at the beginning of the denomination's regional business meetings in the U.S. state of Florida. Leito told the executive committee representing the 24 major church regions, or unions, in Inter-America that the decision to leave came about after much consideration and prayer. He will retire officially on August 1st. The church in the Inter-American division has grown from 1 million to 3.7 million members in the last 25 years under Leito's leadership. He has been president of the Inter-American division since 1993. Leito holds the record for the longest-serving division president, elected to more than 2 consecutive terms, according to the church's Office of Archives, Statistics, and Research. Leito's 48 years of denominational service include more than 41 years in Inter-America, in the Netherlands, Central America, and IAD headquarters. After more than 2 hours in session, the nominating committee recommended Ellie Henry, who currently serves as Executive Secretary in Inter-America, as the territory's next president. His name will need to be voted in by the World Church's Executive Committee in April. President of the Adventist Church, Ted N.C. Wilson, who attended the meetings, took a few moments to acknowledge Leito's outstanding leadership. On behalf of the World Church and the General Conference, I would like to express strong appreciation to Pastor and Mrs. Leito for the very extraordinary extension of their lives in service of their church. Pastor Leito is so focused on evangelism and so enthusiastic about young people. I want to express my profound gratitude, express my extreme appreciation for the way God has led you, and I think so many feel the same. During the same meetings, Leonard Johnson, Associate Ministerial Secretary for the Church in Inter-America and President of the Atlantic Caribbean Union, was recommended as the next IAD Executive Secretary. Johnson would replace Henry. This position will also need to be voted by the World Church's Executive Committee in April.
In an act of religious intolerance, 4 men were expelled from their community while their wives and children were forced to stay in Chiapas, Mexico on March 15. One of the families was recently baptized into the Adventist Church, while the other 3 are planning to be baptized in the future. Community members destroyed the family's cement block homes, leaving them nothing to return to. They are currently staying in the homes of church members from a neighboring town. Adventist church leaders worked with municipal leaders and state government to appeal for religious liberty laws to be enforced and the family members to be released. After 10 days of being held hostage, the wives and children were released on March 24. The Adventist Church in the region is working to provide provisions to rebuild their homes and give them money to sustain them throughout this transition. President of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Ted N.C. Wilson, who was in Chiapas to relaunch the youth-led program 1 Year in Mission, encouraged the families involved. You are truly giants for Jesus because you have accepted the full truth and you are willing to die for the truth. My heart rejoices to see you, to see your faithfulness to God's word. Wilson said the World Church headquarters in Silver Spring, Maryland had kept them in prayer since the news was brought to him by Pastor Leto. To read more about this story, visit news.adventist.org.
Seventh-day Adventists in Trinidad are devastated by the loss of church members who were victims of a violent attack last week. According to investigators, the murders occurred on March 13 in La Brea, a town in the southwestern part of the country. The victims were Michael Scott, 69, a retired high school teacher and church elder; Abigail Chapman, 42, a Spanish teacher at the Southern Adventist Academy; her daughter Olivia Chapman, 15, and schoolmate Michaela Mason, 14. Scott was Chapman's landlord. On the day of the attack, Scott heard noises coming from Chapman's apartment, located in downstairs from his. He encountered the suspect as he went to investigate the disturbance. Chapman had recently submitted a domestic violence report against the alleged attacker. Chapman's 2 younger children, who attend Port 14 Adventist Primary School, were not physically harmed. Friends and family remembered Chapman and her daughter Olivia during a packed memorial service held at their La Brea Adventist Church. Chapman was remembered for her dedication to her family and her committed service to her church. She was a dedicated pathfinder and served as a primary school teacher and secondary school teacher for many years. Kern Tobias, president of the Adventist Church in the Caribbean, attended the funeral. This has shaken our church here, and our entire nation is traumatized by this massacre. We continue to mourn the loss of these lives and pray for the surviving family members and community at large, Tobias stated. A memorial service for Scott was held Sunday, March 25th at La Brea Seventh-day Adventist Church.
2 government officials in Rwanda visited the families of Adventists whose members died after lightning struck their church. The reason for the visit was to comfort and encourage the families and church members impacted by the tragedy.
The Minister of Disaster Management and Refugee Affairs, Jean d'Arc de Bonaire, visited the families, along with Alvera Mukabaramba, Minister of State of Social Affairs and Community Development.
Mukabaramba said the Rwandan government would do its best to educate the country on how to avoid the danger of being struck by lightning. She requested people who build churches and other facilities to always install lightning protection. 15
people were killed and more than 130 injured on March 10 when the lightning struck Nyarunazi Adventist Church in the South Rwandan field. At the time of this recording, only 7 people are still in hospital, with 1 undergoing special treatment.
Rwanda Union Mission leadership says they will have a special time to go to the site to support those affected by this traumatic event.
Coming up, Loma Linda Health opens a new pediatric unit.
But up next, we have a special recap of Global Youth Day.
Well, I think God did create rest, and rest, it means a lot of different things to different people. And I think God embraces it all. I think I discovered Sabbath again in college. We really worked hard all week long and frequently into the night. And I couldn't wait till the sun went down Friday night, because I knew without any guilt whatsoever that I was free to rest.
Welcome back.
Adventist youth around the world deliberately missed out on hearing a sermon on Saturday, March 17, choosing instead to be the sermon in celebration of Global Youth Day 2018.
Thousands of young Adventists ran water and food drives in order to tangibly be the hands and feet of Jesus to their communities.
Participants were encouraged to share pictures and videos of their outreach activities on social media using hashtag GYD18. They could also add their projects to the event's website, globalyouthday.org.
Sam Nevis, Associate Director of Communication, directed the social media and communication strategy behind the effort. Here's his report.
So we prepared a summary of all the activities that have happened. Now, we couldn't put it all into one video, but it's a few minutes. And tell us more about this video that they're going to watch now.
So yeah, this video, we're going to show you everything that happened. Of course, we don't have that much time to show you every single detail, but we do want to show you a summary of around the world what took place in this special day.
Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear? Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the flowers of the field grow? They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you, you of little faith? Do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all those things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble on its own.
The Coachella Valley community in the U.S. state of California is officially home to Loma Linda University Children's Health Indio. Nearly 400 individuals attended a private ribbon-cutting ceremony to celebrate its grand opening, including the mayor of Indio, Michael Wilson, and Congressman Raul Ruiz. Ruiz emphasized how proud he was to work with Loma Linda University Health to get the Indio project off the ground and see it through fruition. Ruiz said families will now have access to critical pediatric services right here in the East Valley, strengthening the health of our entire community. Expanding and ensuring access to health care for everyone, regardless of where you live or how much you make, this has been my life's mission. The inaugural All About Kids Health Expo followed the ribbon cutting. Over 1,000 community members attended the expo. Participants enjoyed free, healthy fun for the whole family, including giveaways, activities, and food. LLU Children's Health Indio officially opened its doors to the community on March 12, offering pediatric primary care services. In the coming month, the clinic will roll out other services such as urgent care, telemedicine, dentistry, and other specialties. The nearly 13,000 square foot building houses 20 patient exam rooms, 3 dental chairs, and an x-ray room. The clinic is also home to a bottomless bookshelf courtesy of Scooter Golden to encourage reading and literacy. Any child who receives care at LLUCH Indio will be able to take a book home.
Thanks to a new partnership project, more than 50,000 students across southern Africa are receiving much-needed school meals. The project, known as El Niño Relief and Recovery School Feeding Initiative, encourages increased school enrollment and attendance. The initiative focuses on primary-age school children, who are often one of the most vulnerable populations during a long drought when food resources are scarce. The worst drought in 35 years has impacted millions of people, especially children. The Adventist Development and Relief Agency, or ADRA, joined forces with Rise Against Hunger and other nonprofits to help tackle the hunger crisis in 185 schools across Mozambique, Madagascar, Malawi, Zimbabwe, and Swaziland. The goal of the effort is to increase school-aged children's resilience and access to education. They also aim to involve school staff, the local community, and the private sector in efforts to promote sustainability. Nearing the end of its first year, the initiative is set to run for 3 years total in each country. ADRA serves daily school meals 5 days a week through the school year. The meals consist of rice, vegetable protein, dried vegetables, and is packed with 23 essential vitamins and nutrients.
Not long ago, the Barros Blancos Seventh-day Adventist School in Uruguay was on the verge of closing its doors for good.
Due to mounting financial challenges, Adventist Church leadership in that region felt that several schools needed to be closed, and Barros Blancos was on the list.
But it turns out the future was bright. On March 14, 2018, the school's principal, along with Maranatha and leaders from the Adventist Church in Uruguay, celebrated the opening of the new Barros Blancos campus.
The new school, constructed by Maranatha, has 8 classrooms, along with bathrooms and administrative offices, and a central auditorium that can be used as a gym.
Maranatha volunteers sent this report.
On March 14, Maranatha celebrated the dedication of a new education and evangelism center at the Barros Blancos School outside Montevideo, Uruguay. The Barros Blancos School is a major means of outreach in this secular South American nation. In a country where the majority of the population is indifferent to or even suspicious of religion, Christian education has been an effective way to start conversations about faith. Several years ago, the Barros Blancos School was on the verge of closing. Limited space, deteriorating buildings, and tight finances threatened the operation of the Adventist primary school. But the teachers of Barros Blancos were unwilling to surrender. They worked tirelessly to recruit students and even sacrificed their own wages to save the school. Adventist leadership in Uruguay reached out to Maranatha for help with the struggling school. Maranatha constructed a large school building with 8 classrooms, bathrooms, offices, and even a gymnasium. It can accommodate 320 students, more than doubling the school's capacity. The opening of the structure is an answer to prayer and was celebrated by church leaders, school staff, parents, and students. A special addition to the dedication ceremony was the baptism of elementary student Allison, marking the beginning of the building's use as an evangelism center in this community.
Es un milagro, Dios siempre dio más de lo que nosotros imaginamos.
On behalf of South American Division, I am so glad to show you this building. It's a school that Maranatha is offering for the community in Uruguay in Montevideo. Thank you for your participation and for everyone that is supporting Maranatha Volunteers International.
Maranatha's work in Uruguay is part of a larger effort in South America. Our current scope includes projects in Bolivia and Brazil. For more information on Maranatha's work around the world, visit maranatha.org.
Coming up, Emily Mastrapa is here to share how you can get involved in World Health Day.
But up next, find out how a small clinic in Mexico expanded to be one of the most reputable hospitals in its community.
Welcome back.
Medical work began in a small town in Mexico in 1959 when missionaries set up a small clinic.
As people began to rely on the medicine of Adventist missionaries, the clinic expanded to become a respected hospital in the region.
Adventist Mission has more.
The Southeast Hospital, located on the plains of Villahermosa, is one of 3 Adventist hospitals in Mexico. It sits in a prime location where Adventists have a chance to interact with the needy community. The people of this region suffer from health problems like diabetes, dengue fever, and obesity, and this hospital serves as a refuge for the sick and afflicted. Medical work began here in 1959 when missionaries set up a small clinic to provide basic health care to those in need. Doctors constantly volunteered time to serve the people. Materials such as syringes, needles, and medicine were donated by the city's pharmacies. As people began to rely on the Adventist missionaries' medical care, the clinic expanded to become one of the most reputable hospitals in the region, ministering to the needs of a surrounding population of more than 2 million people. The Southeast Hospital operates with more than 30 beds and 200 employees, and has a laboratory, an emergency room, a blood bank, and an intensive care unit. On average, the hospital staff sees 11,000 people every year. Many who arrive here expect physical healing, but they receive much more as the staff takes this opportunity to share Jesus' love in action.
El propósito es saber en realidad cómo está la persona.
Our purpose is to evaluate each person, not only the physical and emotional aspects, but also spiritual. Many of our patients tell us, "Oh, I'm not so good, but thanks to God, I can still walk." Others do not mention God at all. This helps us see where people are and know how we can help them. When they leave here, they can bear in mind that God is with them, that they have hope, and that they come out relieved, not only physically, but also spiritually by God's Word.
In Adventist hospitals around the world, spiritual care is an important component toward physical and mental recovery. At the age of 15, Michelle arrived at the hospital after hitting her head when she fell from a horse. It was a life-and-death situation. Dolly, her mother, prepared for the worst. Fortunately, Michelle received holistic care as the medical staff healed and comforted her.
People would come to me and say that God was with me and that they were praying for us. This is the first place I have seen this level of attention in dealing with people. Everyone is very kind. I realized here that the staff works for God and not for people. I had already heard that, but now I experienced it.
It was a tough time. For weeks, Michelle was hospitalized. So Pastor Eric, the hospital chaplain, would visit them to talk and pray. More than 500 people were touched by Michelle's situation, and they formed a prayer chain. As they prayed, little by little, Michelle's life was impacted by the prayers of the doctors and nurses. This closeness spoke deeply to Michelle's and Dolly's hearts. As a result, today they testify about the power of prayer.
I'd pray, "Lord, my trust is in you, and I am yours. We will overcome. This mountain will be moved, and there will be no permanent damage."
In an inexplicable way, Michelle's condition stabilized, and she finally recovered. In medical institutions like Southeast Hospital, people are reached with health, healing, and hope. Just as Jesus healed the whole person, today faithful medical missionaries do the same through dedicated, God-centered care. The Southeast Hospital needs to expand to make room for more patients and to offer more treatment options. There is also a desire to build an urban center of influence in Villahermosa. This center will offer a place for the entire community to receive medical care and health training. Please pray for the hospital, the staff, and future plans. They face many challenges while operating in this small, outdated space. And also remember to pray for the patients whose lives will be touched by the hospital staff. Thank you for your support of Adventist medical mission work.
Watch this and other mission stories online by visiting adventistmission.org. Then click on videos at the top.
Over half the world's population still do not have full coverage of essential health services, and over 100 million people live in extreme poverty because they have to pay for health care.
Emily Mastrapa is here to tell you how you can bring attention to these important issues during this year's World Health Day.
World Health Day is on April 7. This year's theme is Universal Health Coverage, everyone, everywhere. Universal health coverage is about ensuring all people can get quality health services where and when they need them without suffering financial hardship. No one should have to choose between good health and other life necessities. Everyone has a part to play in helping achieve and maintain universal health coverage. Learn how you can get involved at who.int/campaigns. They have great graphics that you can download and use on your social media pages. They also have a quiz that you can take to see how much you really know about universal health coverage. You can follow along on Facebook and Twitter at WHO. The primary hashtag being used is Health for All, but look out for posts using World Health Day as well. Make sure you communicate your needs and ensure that your community health needs are taken into account at the local level. Share your stories as affected communities and patients with others. Everyone, everywhere has the ability to advocate for universal health coverage for themselves and for others. World Health Day will shine a spotlight on the need for universal health coverage and the advantages it can bring. All people should be able to realize their right to the highest possible level of health.
And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to Henry Hilton for a look at Adventist history.
This week, we recognize the birth of a pioneer book salesman and his impact on the sale of Adventist publications.
On March 25, 1948, the Lakeside Clinic was opened in Marawi City in the Philippines. Dr. Regalado Santos, a surgeon and medical consultant, led the medical team of 12 workers. They rented a 2-story house, which became the Lakeside Clinic. Here, over 18 months, they performed 287 surgical operations and treated 7,400 outpatients, the large majority of whom were Muslims. This week, we also recognize the birth of George Albert King, who was born on March 28, 1847. He was a pioneer canvasser who developed the idea of subscription sale of Seventh-day Adventist books. A native of Canada, he came to the United States as a young man in search of a fortune. But having accepted Seventh-day Adventist beliefs, he had a desire to preach. But he was discouraged by James White, who did not regard him to be a promising candidate. At the 1881 General Conference session, King urged those assembled to carry out the counsel given by Ellen White in 1879 that Seventh-day Adventist books should be sold widely among the public, and forcefully argued that 2 small books written by Uriah Smith, Thoughts on Daniel and Thoughts on Revelation, could be published together in attractive form for sale by canvassers to the public. Consequently, these were reprinted together with new illustrations by the Review and Herald early in 1882. Throughout his life, he was not only an avid canvasser who spent 19 years canvassing the city of New York, but he was also an enthusiastic recruiter and instructor of other canvassers. And that was This Week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
We'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback and tell us how your church is making a difference in its community.
Be sure to capture plenty of video footage and photos, and then write up a summary of the event's important details. And feel free to send full video reports as well.
You can reach us by sending an email to annvideo11@gmail.com.
Before we say goodbye, here's some good news from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 16.
The passage says, "And I command you today, love God, your God, walk in his ways, keep his commandments, regulations, and rules so that you will live, really live. Live exuberantly, blessed by God, your God, in the land you are about to enter."
That's our program for this week, but remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.